Home Show.
Arnold from North Riverside, Illinois, has a question about a flue in his chimney that's making him very frustrated.
But it's smoking, but not in a good way, Tom.
Okay.
He says, Arnold writes, he says, I have a fireplace problem. He says the first floor and basement in my house each have a fireplace, and the flues are in the same chimney, as you can see here at the top of the house. He says the first floor fireplace had a liner installed, Tom. And the problem is when I burn wood on the first floor fireplace, smoke comes out of the basement fireplace very badly. The flues at the top of the house are displaced height-wise. I should probably let him put that picture back up, and you can see what he's talking about, how they're different heights there. He says by about a few feet, and he says, I hope that makes sense. He says I have a forced air furnace. He was wondering, do I have a backdraft pulling the smoke back in the basement because I have no fresh air intake for my furnace? He says, I'm just trying to figure this out, Tom. What say you?
I think, and I'm not here to be able to ask him a few questions. That's why I like doing the radio show so much, because we have that dialogue going. But it sounds like it probably wasn't doing that originally, and somehow they're connected as it goes past from the basement to the first floor, and then how it's configured, I don't know. The configuration of the chimneys, I don't know how it is, but somehow they're connected, and I think that liner, which is a metal liner, it's staying really cold. And when you have a really cold flue, what will happen is the cold air will drop, and until it heats up, and if it's really cold, it's not going to heat up, the air will drop. It'll get into that main chamber, and it'll drop down, and so it's probably dropping down into the basement. Now, that's what I suspect. Having my experiences with chimneys up in the Lake Placid area, you have to be really careful. In fact, when you have a metal flue, what you need to do is you ball up newspapers and you open the windows in the room a little bit so we get some air drafting in the room. And then you light that newspaper and you stick it up into the flue and start to heat that flue and get the air moving up in a drastic way, so the air starts going up out that chimney, and then you light the fire, and what will happen is it'll start the draw of the fire, and then you won't have that problem. And with the inserts today, you will have that happen, and that's the trick to it. Then once it's going real well, you can go ahead and close the windows, but you need to feed it fast to get the draw going. And I have a feeling that's it. So here's where you get a licensed, certified chimney sweep to come in and really troubleshoot this thing, because I can imagine not only is it a mess, but it could end up being a problem where somebody getting sick, somebody having a lot of smoke inhalation, which obviously isn't good, and who knows, it could be a fire hazard too. So I would get someone to check it, but I have a feeling it was the way that liner was put in.
So he has to essentially prime the pump to get the smoke to go up the chimney.
I don't know how many calls I would get from clients. And here in Houston, we put in very simple fireplaces. People use them 3 times a year just because it gets a little cold, and it's fun to use. And that first time I would get that, and I would have to walk them through on the phone how to prime it, as you say, Charlie, which is a great way to put it, and get that draw going. And once they did that, they go, oh, wow, this is great. And as long as it stays going, you're fine. But once it gets cold, that air will drop, and dropping air has got more force than air slowly being heated and trying to rise out. It will lose the battle.
It is when you say when it gets cold here in Houston, and if you're watching from anywhere else in the United States, for people who are native to the Houston area, when it gets below 65 degrees, it's time for a sweater. And
okay, I'm in Houston today. I'm out back. I'm cleaning some of my fruit trees with some old fruit that I didn't get to, and it's I think 52 degrees. I've got my longshoreman hat on. I've got my big parka on. I am freezing. And I turned the heater on in my garage. It was so cold, and it was 57 degrees. So now you know how us sissies are down here. We're not going to fight any cold weather wars. We're going to leave that for the Yanks.
Texans are tough about a lot of things. Cold weather ain't one of them. All right. But Tom is tough on telling you the truth. And if you have a question, he'd love to do it. Go visit HomeShowRadio.com over there and click on that Ask Tom button and fill out the form or send us a video, and Tom will answer your question. We post a new one every day to our website at HomeShowRadio.com, our Facebook page, and, of course, our YouTube channel. We'd love it if you give our videos a thumbs up when you see them.